Okay, so we're on to Juz 9, inshallah. So yesterday we looked at the importance of belief. Today we're on Juz 9. So Juz 9, there's two surahs that make up this section, this part of this Juz. Surah Al-A'raf and Surah Al-Anfal. Now, if you look at Surah Al-A'raf, that's the 7th surah in the Quran. Surah Al-Anfal is 8th surah. Surah Al-A'raf, it speaks, I'll forget something. Surah Al-A'raf, it speaks about belief. Yeah, the basis of what it is we believe, what it is we believe as Muslims. Yeah, this is what Surah Al-A'raf speaks about. Surah Al-Anfal is about like military campaigns, warfare. So some of the ulama, they ask, what's the link? Like you've got two surahs in the same chapter. One's talking about belief, like our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la ilaha illallah, and the other one is talking about like military campaigns. So what this is, there's a direct link between the two. That one of the things we see about the Sahaba is the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they had this level of certainty. And this level of certainty is what led to their brilliance in terms of military campaigns. Because one thing you see, this is a difficult concept actually in the West. People don't understand this in the West. This idea of like the ethical warrior. You know, people here, they think war's bad. Yeah, and that's it. So you can't be an ethical warrior. This idea, part of the reason why we don't understand it is because if you look at Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, who's the main model for Europe, for Christendom, for the Christians, he didn't have a military dimension. He didn't fight battles. Yeah, mashallah, he's going to come back and he's going to complete that mission. But his initial period as a prophet, alayhi salam, he didn't have this. So it's a difficult concept. In the Far East, they don't have a problem. You look at the Japanese, the Chinese, they understand the idea of an ethical warrior. Somebody can be a warrior, but have great ethics, great meanings and stuff like that. That's missing. So if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, the way he prepared the companions, he came to a people who loved war. They loved war, they loved to fight, but they would fight over the most ridiculous of things. Like they would have like, there was a war that lasted over 100 years over a dispute, like over a camel. Two people argued over like, who owned a camel, and it led to 100 years of bloodshed. This is what they call like these vendettas. You know, it's like one person kills someone for one tribe. It's like gang warfare, basically, in our modern terminology. One guy kills, and then I'm going to get revenge, and before you know it, it gets out of control. It becomes like a cycle of violence. So the Prophet ﷺ, he came for 13 years, no violence whatsoever. He can't do anything. And that was the hardest thing for the Sahaba. It's not like us. Yeah, we were like, that's fine. We're not fighters anyway. Which one of us have been to war? You know. Whereas for them, it was the opposite. So for them to be told you can't fight was a much greater challenge, number one. Number two, then you're seeing people around, you're seeing your own parents being tortured. Yeah, you're seeing your own like brothers and sisters, either in blood or in faith, being killed and being harassed and massacred, and there's nothing you can do. You got to stand back. Listen, no, we're ready. We're ready. Like you just give us the command. There's no command. No, what they call radical non-violence. For 13, why? Those 13 years, he's preparing them for ethical warfare. He's preparing them to go into battle with absolute certainty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's when you see these great things that you see. These heroes of Uhud, these heroes of Badr. They talk about one of them, Sayyidina Mu'adh. Like Sayyidina Mu'adh said, he's engaged in battle, and he comes up against Abu Jahl, who was a great enemy of Islam at the time. So he fights and he strikes Abu Jahl. They said he strikes him on the head. He doesn't kill him, but he strikes him a severe blow. Abu Jahl was like 9 foot tall. He was a giant. He was a very strong man. Yeah, he wasn't going to be just taken by one blow. And then his son at the time was called Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl at the time. He's not Muslim. He becomes Muslim later on. So Ikrimah obviously gets angry. His father's been struck, and he goes and he strikes Mu'adh on his arm. Yeah, he strikes him on his arm, and he said his arm started to hang from his socket. But look at this, Sayyidina Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he carries on. Look at this for him and determination. He carries on fighting. He doesn't stop or wait. He continues to fight with the same vigor, the same energy. They say eventually he gets to the stage, the pain becomes overwhelming for him. The pain is so intense that he's struggling to move forward. So what does he do? They say he put his foot on his arm and he took it off. And he just carried on. I mean, where does that kind of level of commitment, where does that kind of level of sacrifice come from? It doesn't come from a Jahili mentality. Yeah, these Jahili Arabs, they didn't have that. Like, you know, like, I'll give you a modern example now. You look at these guys, our teacher, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf gives this analogy. It's always made me smile. He gives the analogy of like, the president of the United States. He's got bodyguards, hasn't he? He's got people that are like this. Yeah, they'll catch a bullet for him. But these people, they have to be trained like Pavlovian dogs. Really have to be trained like dogs because it's against every instinct. Why would you put your body in front of a bullet when you know you've got family at home, you've got your mortgage to pay, you've got your bills to pay? Why are you going to put your body in front of a bullet to defend someone who you don't really care about, to be perfectly frank? What do they care about the president from an emotional point of view? They don't. It's just a job. Yeah, so that's how they have to be. But look at the Sahaba. They were catching arrows to the Prophet ﷺ. No one's telling him to do anything. They were catching arrows. One of them is about to be tied to a stake. Yeah, Khubayb of Khazraj. Yeah, from the tribe of Khazraj. Like, this is the tribe of Medina. It's not even someone who grew with the Prophet ﷺ. It's someone who becomes Muslim later on in Medina. It's from the tribe of Khazraj. It's not even one of his close companions. He's being tied. He's about to be tied to a stake. And he says to the kuffar who were trying to kill him at the time, he says, let me pray 2 rakats. He was the first one who did this. This tradition of praying 2 rakats before death. And then one of them, he says to him, says, look at the state of you. SubhanAllah, look at you, you're about to be killed, and look at you. Look at the struggles you've been through. He goes, I'm sure right now you'd love to be with your family, wouldn't you? And he goes, wouldn't you rather that Muhammad, the Prophet, wouldn't you rather that you were with your family and he was here? He was here taking it because you did it for him. And wouldn't you rather he was here? And he said, listen, you don't know anything about me. I don't know anything about you. He said, listen to me. He said, I would rather die than a thorn prick the blessed body of the Prophet. That would be more painful for me, just to see a thorn prick him. Now they mentioned the great woman, the woman of Uhud. This woman, she goes out of Medina to find out what's going on in the battle. She starts walking towards the mount of Uhud. Someone comes back, she sees one man, he tells her, your father's died. She carries on. Another one tells you, your husband's died, your brother's died, your son's died. 4 of the male members of a family had died. Yeah, and every time they tell her, he's that your husband's died, your father's died, she's saying, okay, for Rasulullah. Is he well? Is he okay? They say, yeah, he's fine, alhamdulillah, he's okay. Take me to him. Okay, so then, but do you understand what we're saying? Now, she got into shock. Do you understand what we're saying to you? She goes, yes, I understand what you're saying. Take me to the Rasul. They take her to the Prophet. She sees like a bead of sweat going down the blessed, perfect face of the Prophet. On this, I mean, it was a difficult, brutal day, the day of Uhud, for everybody concerned. The Prophet himself was injured severely. He's injured. He takes heavy wounds that day. He has a sword struck that falls upon his shoulder. He has parts from his helmet that go into his blessed cheek. His tooth is broken. He has a boulder thrown upon his head. And many other difficulties that befall him. So he's sweating that day. She removes the sweat and she says to him, Kullu musiba ba'daka jalal. Every difficulty after you is insignificant. The ulama say, what does that mean? She's saying that for me to see this one drop of sweat coming from your face, that's more painful to me than my family members dying. This is the love that they had. So this was established through La ilaha illallah, through having an absolute certainty. Like Sayyidina Ali, he said that if I could see angels, I wouldn't increase in iman. Because if this unseen became seen to me, if I could see that we consider around how this gathering is going on, by Allah, there's angels going all the way up to the arsh, engulfing this gathering. This is a gathering of knowledge. It's the highest gathering on the face of the planet right now. There's nothing higher than, the only thing that rivals this is another gathering of knowledge. That's it. There's nothing else that rivals a gathering of this. And there's angels that are engulfing this gathering all the way up to the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they go to Allah after this gathering. And Allah asks, where did you come from? As if Allah doesn't. Allah knows. Says, where did you come from? We just came from a gathering of knowledge. Where they're remembering, they were learning about you, Ya Allah. They were learning about your law and about your religion. Who was there? Names are mentioned. He was there, he was there, he was there. And names are mentioned in the divine presence. So-and-so, the son of so-and-so was there. This is the nature of these types of gatherings. Yeah, exalted gatherings. And that's why for us, the time that we live in, what are our battles? Our battles is to be here in a gathering of knowledge. That's our Badr. That's our Uhud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mashallah for us, that He doesn't want us to do that. We don't have to rip our arms off. We don't have to go into battle and take, like Sayyidina Talha, he took 90 wounds, 80 wounds. Wahab of Muzayna is unrecognizable. His sisters recognize him from his fingertips after he's gone into the battle. We don't have to do things like that. We don't have to give our wealth, like every single thing that we have, like Uthman ibn Affan, like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, like Umar ibn al-Khattab, like all of them did repeatedly again and again and again throughout their lives. We don't have to tie a stone or 2 stones to our stomach out of intense hunger. Yeah, we don't have to strive like that. What do we have to do? That we have to be here to learn the knowledge. This is our battle. Yeah, one of my wife's teachers, she said that where would we be in Badr? You know, the Prophet is supposed to be going Badr. He went, oh no, like I've got work. I've got a doctor's appointment. That's really bad. I've got a doctor's appointment. I can't go. Yeah, what kind of excuse? What kind of excuse are we gonna give? Or we can't go to? But you know, these individuals, they went without a second thought. This is one of the things, you know, like we all, mashallah, and we should all desire to be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We should all desire to, if only we had lived in Medina. MashaAllah, of course, if only we had lived in Medina at the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you lived at that time, it's not easy, it's not a cakewalk. Yeah, you're gonna go to the masjid now, and now people, you come for Asr. Imagine you come for Asr, mashallah, you know, you've got children at home, I've got children at home. Imagine you come, you're not going back home. Get ready, get your armor, we're going out to battle. Where are we going, Ya Rasulullah? We're going, there's 10,000 of us, we're going to face 100,000 Romans. 100,000 Romans. Who are the Romans? The most experienced field battle warriors on the face of the planet. They've got more equipment than us, they've got more horses than us, they've got better strategy than us, they've got more experience than us, greater commanders. You're walking into certain death. And then we go, no, you're not going to go back. There's no time to go back home now. You have to go right now. Is there provision? Not really, no. You're going to walk about 100 miles. There might be water, there might not be water. There might be food, there might not be food. There might be a horse for you to ride, there might not be a horse for you to ride on. That is difficult. So now it's like, okay, maybe we don't want to live at that time. Yeah, you start to understand these are realities that what these Sahaba did, the certainty that they had. I mean, how could they have had that level of certainty? It's something profound, isn't it? For you to be at a level where you're willing to give that. You're willing, you want to give that. Because you see something else. That again, Anas bin Nadhr, he's smelling Jannah. Because I can smell Jannah on the other side of Uhud. He's got no doubt. Why is he going to sit back and let someone else get the rewards? This is one of the things you have to realize about this. That even if, for example, the faqir, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't, like Masha was saying, it's a shame people don't learn knowledge. That's a shame for them. It's not a shame for me. I couldn't really care less. I couldn't care less whether there's 1 people here or 100 people. It doesn't make any difference. Because this is Allah, this is God's work. This is the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's going to happen whether Tahir teaches or whether Tahir doesn't teach. It's going to happen whether you guys attend or whether you don't attend. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. This is Allah's work. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to complete His nur, as He mentioned many times in the Quran. Like the Prophet sallallahu, he tells his blessed daughter Fatima Zahra, there's going to come a time where every single house, Islam will enter it. The religion of your father will enter every single house. This is what he tells her. He tells her this at a time when the Prophet ﷺ is weak, in inverted commas, he's weak from the point of view of the world. Yeah, he's having the entrails of a sheep, the inside of a sheep being thrown on his blessed body whilst he's in sajda. He's having people trying to strangle him from behind. He's having people pelting him with stones. He's going through immense suffering and difficulty, but the confidence is supreme. And that's when he tells his daughter, don't worry, this is nothing. Don't worry about this. There's going to come a time when your father's religion will enter every house. Yeah, this is supreme confidence. This is certainty. The Sahaba had this. They would see haqa'iq before their very eyes. How many a Sahabi? Look at the likes of Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib is given this battle standard, you know, the flag to go into battle. Now that's precious. He understands the value of that standard, and he never lets it go. He goes into a battle, they remove his right arm, he clings on with his left arm. They remove his left arm, he clings on like this with his stumps. Yeah, he clings on to that battle standard, and then he's killed and martyred. Where does he go? Straight to Madinah to Munawwara. As-salam, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sat and he says, wa alaikum as-salam wa rahmatullah. They say, Ya Rasulullah, who are you giving salams to? Beside you with the gathering of alaikum as-salam. He goes, that was Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. So he's been martyred before he went to Jannatul Firdaus. He wanted to come and see me first to give salams. He knows where his Jannah lies. It's not in that Jannah. His Jannah is with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no Jannah without him. There's no reality without him. There's no Quran without the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no Islam. There's no Iman. There's no Ihsan. There's no goodness, there's no khair. There's no universe, there's no creation, there's no before, after, beginning, end. None of it is going to exist without the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, all of this is from just just like a drop of his barakah. So really, he's beyond this universe. Even I look at the likes of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he says the soul of the Prophet is greater than the universe. He's understood idrak. He's understood the point. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, who people use as like against it, he says if it wasn't for the Prophet the universe would not have been created. That's his statement. His statement. Why? Because he says we were only created to worship Allah. And we can't worship him without Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without him sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaching us. So there's no universe, there's no existence, there's nothing at all without the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his blessed body entering into this world. Yeah, there's nothing there before or after. So this is what we're talking about, this level of certainty which was developed by the Sahaba through this attachment. How do we develop this? There's different ways. There's practical things we can do within the month of the Quran right now. The best thing we can do is actually to understand the Quran. Yeah, to what they say, tadabbur fil Quran, to read the Quran with tadabbur, to reflect upon it. This is the best way to develop like 100% certainty within our hearts. Yeah, one of our teachers, he mentioned that he knew once this young man who was like he was not having doubts, doubts about Islam itself. So like this young man, his father came to the scholar and he said to him that, like my son's struggling, what do I do? And he said, listen, just tell him to take the Quran and to read it and ponder over it. Read it, ponder over it, reflect over it, think about the meanings. So he did that. He came back to me a few months later and said, yeah, mashallah. Because he's rasikh now, he's 100% established within the religion. Yeah, so this is amongst the best means that they mention is the tadabbur fil Quran. Another thing they say is like reflection upon the world around you. Yeah, to reflect upon creation. This leads to ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to knowledge of Allah, and establishes certainty within the heart. One of our teachers from Scotland, Sheikh Abdul Aziz, he says that whenever I want to teach an Aqidah lesson, I want to teach an Aqidah, basic belief, he goes, let's go to the Scottish Highlands. That's it. He goes, I just take them out there and say, who created this? That's it. That's your lesson right there. Just have a look, just think about it. Where did all this come from? It didn't just pop up from nowhere, did it? Where did it come from? Who created this? And that's not the beginning now. And then because you can talk about, like I mentioned yesterday, it's good, mashallah. Obviously, we should know about the Qudra of Allah and Sami'un, Basirun, etc. Of course, but real Aqidah is experiential. It's experienced. Yeah, it's experienced. So and then the other thing is leaving sin. To leave sin behind gives you certainty. Why were the Sahaba so great? They immediately left sin behind. Immediately left it behind. People who, like they said, many of them said they are here to the Prophet ﷺ more than anyone else. And within a moment, I loved him more than anyone else. Yeah, just like instantaneous changes. They left it all behind, and therefore they attain the certainty that, subhanAllah, we still feeling the echoes of it to this day. Not just us, the whole world around us, we're all feeling the echoes of that certainty. Yeah, that they had on the impact, the deep impact that they had on the world. So these are amongst the things. Another thing that they say is good company. Yeah, to be with the Salihin. This is one of the best means of awakening the heart. This is one of the best means of awakening the heart. Another way they mention, they say like if somebody, one of the scholars, they asked him, they said, if someone's got a dead heart, someone's heart that he's died, you can't even perceive Iman within his heart anymore. What does he do? He said, tell that person to call upon Allah in the last third of the night. Yeah, tell that person to call upon Allah in the last third of the night. Which again, we're all awake now, suhoor time. So that's the time we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, number two, tell him to reflect upon the Quran. And number three is a time to leave sin. These three things, no matter how black or how dark or how disturbed your hearts become, these three things that bring it back to life. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that know that Allah brings the earth back to life after it was dead. Just like He brings the earth back to life, He can bring our souls back to life in a moment. Yeah, don't underestimate the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, so these are all means that we ask Allah to allow us to attain that certainty, that yaqeen. What our teacher Habib Umar, someone asked him for advice on the West, like what advice would he give for people living in the West? And he spoke about certainty. That's what he spoke about. So the big problem that we have here, for half an hour we just spoke about certainty and establishing certainty within our hearts, a certainty that nothing can shake. Yeah, like firmer than a mountain itself. Yeah, this is where our challenge is, to become people that have absolute certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the Sahaba had. Yeah, so we see this. We see this great link between the military campaigns of the Prophet and this Tawheed. So he mentions that. Now the Juz also mentions other aspects. It talks about obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, and it talks about how obedience, if you obey Allah, if you follow His commands, it leads to success now and then, now and in the Akhirah. Yeah, so this Juz, it brings a beautiful story, beautiful example from the Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam, Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam. He was a wealthy merchant. So this is somebody who's wealthy in this world, and by his obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was given more barakah, more increase in his wealth. Number one. Number two, he's going to be given, and he was given even more. He's being given even more right now in the barzakh and in the akhirah. Yeah, and then he gives that. Then he gives another example of the people who opposed Sayyidina Shu'aib alayhi salam, the wealthy merchants, these wealthy business people that went against him, and the torture and the punishment that they're now in. Yeah, so it shows you rather you through obedience you gain victory now and afterwards. Yeah, and that's an important point to remember. One of the things about Islam is Islam is a religion of winners. Why do we say that? Because Christianity isn't. Christianity, if you look what happened to Christianity, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam came, and then for 300 years they were oppressed. To the extent that the original Christianity, it was actually wiped out. As we know, this is like all well documented now in history. And then 300 years later, the Romans took on Christianity and they altered it and they did what they did with it. So really for 300 years, that's a long time, 300 years the Christians were oppressed. They weren't the dominant force in the world. You look at the Muslims, complete opposite. It's not from day one, it's about victory and being the best. Yeah, that we are khulafa. We are the people who should be ruling the world, and we should be making the world a better place. There's a confidence right from the start. The Muslims, the superpowers around them were falling within 5, 10 years. 10 years of the Prophet passing away, Persia's fallen, and a large of Byzantium of the Eastern Roman Empire has fallen to the Muslims very, very quickly. Jerusalem's conquered very early, Syria, Iraq, all these places that fall very, very early on. Yeah, so the Sayyidina Umar, within 20 years, you look at his empire, it's like a large part of the Muslim world as we know it today has just gone within that very, very short period of time. Yeah, so through that, it's a different type of so we should have that mentality of confidence. That we have victory here and we have victory in the next life. But the point is that it takes patience. The one who's patient, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will establish him within the earth. And we see this again and again. That's why when you study history, we see this again and again and again. It's a constant theme. Yeah, so this is mentioned. Another part now, another story that's mentioned in this juz is the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and his confrontation with the magicians. Now, this story is very, very important for us to understand certainty. Yeah, we're talking about how do we attain certainty. Look at these people now who are not only are the disbelievers, they're the worst of disbelievers. People who are doing magic in order to trick people into believing that Pharaoh is God. That's what they would do. Why did Pharaoh have these people? He wanted them to believe that he's the one, rather than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he wanted all these magical tricks, all these things. So now these same people, when they see the truth, when they see Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam throw down the staff and swallow up their illusions, they immediately accept and submit to Islam. Amanna bi Rabbi Musa wa Harun. And then Pharaoh says, what are you doing? Because I'm going to have you chopped up. Because I'm going to have your arms and legs cut off, and I'm going to leave you crucified for the vultures to eat. In other words, I'm going to humiliate you now, and I'm going to make sure you're humiliated, like even when you're dead, the animals are going to be eating on you. What's their response? We don't care. La dhaif. We're returning back to Allah anyway. So who cares? Whether how we return back doesn't matter. So long as our hearts are sound, so long as we have belief in Him. We look at that within a moment, certainty is attained. This is what they call mushahada, witnessing the truth. They saw something right there because they were magicians and they knew this is a magic. They knew this is a magic. They saw something that led to a quantum leap in faith. That they were willing in an instant to give up absolutely everything that they had. And they were wealthy people. Don't they? They had a lot more to give up than everyone in this room put together. Yeah, think about it. They were like, Pharaoh says to them, if you defeat Musa, alayhi salam, I'll make you'll be from the Muqarrabin, you'll be from those close to me. the amount of gifts and money and they had showered upon them, the bribery and everything else that they had, we can't even imagine that kind of wealth. They don't care. They don't care about an instant. They're happy to die. They're happy to leave their women as widows and leave their children as orphans. Within an instant. What kind of certainty is that? Yeah, so this is why we need to understand, how did they attain that? They witnessed something that was haqq. They recognized the truth within that. And that's really what we need. People who go through those. That's why really, like, you know, and no offense to you guys, but really a lot of our hope now, if I'm thinking personally faqir, if I look around, a lot of my hope is with new Muslims personally. I'll be honest with you. I have no disrespect, but really they're the ones, like we were out in Fez studying Islamic knowledge, 90 to 95%, yeah, 95% of the people studying there were new Muslims. And there's a lot of talk. Yeah, we know, mashallah, you've done the ICLM, you've done the macro madrasa, you've done this course, that course. Oh, I've been to go. How many are there? I met this one brother, convert brother, again, surprise. I met him in Fez, and he was saying, yeah, you know, I've moved here. And he's like, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, around our circles? So, yeah, because but no one's here. Like, where is everyone? So I don't know where they are. Why are people going out and studying? But the ones that are doing it, the vast majority of the ones that enter into Islam, because they're witnessing realities. They're seeing truth, and they're entering in. Yeah, this is why, like Imam al-Bahar, he says that you can't understand prophecy other than through dhawq. Unless you experience truth, you don't know what prophecy is. Don't tell me you understand that, or this is prophecy. Like we went through yesterday, that's just robotic. Siddiq, amana, tabligh, fatan, like this. Okay, isma. That's good, mashallah. You have to know that. But to really understand what prophecy is dhawq. This is a religion of experience. And really, that's the greatest proof of Islam. Imam al-Ghazali is called Hujjatul Islam, because he showed that you can experience the reality of Islam. That's what he did. And there's no one else who has that title, that unique title of Hujjat, the proof of Islam that he has. And really, if you look at it, it's interesting, because we live in a world of science and studies, don't we? If you look at it scientifically, we can bring hundreds of thousands, even millions of case studies for people. Yeah, one guy here, he lived in like Central Asia. Another one lived in Muslim Spain. Another one lived in China. Another one lived in North Africa, West. Wherever, all over the Muslim world, all of them, they went on the same spiritual journey, and they arrived at the same conclusion. They experienced the same things. Isn't that science? The ability to replicate the experiment. You can do exactly the same thing again. You can do it now. You can do it 500 years later. It's the same results, again and again and again. Yeah, this is powerful. Like now, like they've got. I remember reading something about, you know, you've got this guy Daniel Goleman. He's like probably one of the leading psychologists in the world. He's written books on emotion. So he's been doing studies recently on Buddhists, you know, these Buddhists and these meditators. He calls them Olympic level meditators. People who meditated 60, 70,000 hours in their life. He says if you analyze their brain, they're emitting certain waves, gamma waves within their brain that shows they're in a permanent state of peace and happiness. Yeah, they've actually analyzed their brain. They're saying these gamma waves, that us normal people, we might experience them just in a short burst. And for them, when we open our fast, you know, the enjoyment of eating that first bit of food, that gamma wave there. Or when, imagine you've been working on a problem for months and you finally figure it out, that joy that you get it. They're permanently in that state. Because when they start meditating, it increases tenfold. Subhanallah. Yeah, that's a scientific evidence of their spirit and their spiritual techniques. I mean, there's nothing compared to Islam. I mean, what would our awliya do? They'd smash their machines. They wouldn't be able to record their spiritual experiences. You wouldn't quantify spiritual experience. Yeah, they wouldn't even be able to do it. But it just shows that this is scientifically verifiable. It's scientifically verifiable. So we have a lot of that. And that is where the truth has to settle within our hearts. And really, like, no doubt there's doubt within our hearts. If there wasn't doubt, then we would be giving ourselves for the Prophet ﷺ. There's something there, isn't there? There isn't like doubt in Islam, we must be Muslims, but there's doubt in something. There's doubt that his way is the best way. Guaranteed. Otherwise, why aren't we? Yeah, why? Because I know people, I can tell you people right now, they went. Yeah, as soon as they found out Sheikh Ramadan al Buddhist in Syria, they went. Murabat al-Hajj, Habib Umar, whoever else out there, they went straight away. They went to go and sit with them because this is where my salvation lies. Why haven't we gone? You know, what stopped us from going? There's something there. Otherwise, you would go. There's people now. I know people today. They would walk from here to Medina to Munawwara. They would walk just to give salam. The only reason they're not doing it because they've been prevented from this. Their teacher said, no, stay where you are. Don't be crazy. Stay where you are and do the work that the Rasul wants you to do. Otherwise, they'd be gone. They'd walk from here to go to the Rasul. So there's people like that. People that would crawl to go to him because they have no doubts whatsoever within their hearts. Yeah, so we see this with this glorious story of the magicians. And then just to conclude, inshallah, the final part of the surah. So we have this, the Pharaoh and the magician, and then the surah finishes. Sorry, the juz finishes by talking about two interesting stories. One is Pharaoh and how he was defeated. Pharaoh, he was drowned in the Red Sea. Yeah, that's the end of Surah Al-Araf. The Surah Al-Anfal begins, which is towards the end of this juz, the 9th juz, begins by telling us about the Battle of Badr. Yeah, so look at these two stories. This is one of the key themes of this juz, of this para, is the victory of the oppressed over their oppressors. Yeah, people who were downtrodden, attacked, defeated, how they rose. This is the great, like people now, the psychologists, this is the great story that everyone loves. Like the hero rises from the ashes. That's what everyone loves, isn't it? That's the number one. Like from the beginning of time up until now, and up until the end of time, human beings will hardwired to love stories, and that's the story for us. Yeah. So we say, look at Badr. Badr, the people who dies in Badr, the people who die in Badr is what they call the mustahzi'un, the ones who used to mock the Prophet ﷺ. Not that they opposed Islam, they used to make fun of Islam. Those people. Like they mentioned once when the Prophet ﷺ, when they dropped the entrails of a sheep onto his blessed body, and his daughter Fatima Zahra was very young, so she comes out, she clears. Whilst he stays in sujood, she clears, and then she even shouts at them. Yeah, she defends her father with this valor and this dignity that she had. There she is, Fatima, mashallah, the name of Fatima. Yeah, and then what happens? Then Prophet ﷺ, he finishes his prayer, and then he makes dua. Yeah, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud there, he says, every single person that was mentioned, I saw him killed on Badr. Every single one of them. He mentioned, and he's not to mention people by name. These are the great enemies. These are people like the Emmatul Kufr, the leaders of Kufr. So they were removed. We see Pharaoh removed. Yeah, so this is just a reminder for us that those people, they're going to have their destiny. That one of these guys who did like these cartoons, yeah, he died. You know how he died? Engulfed in fire. He died we ask Allah for Islam and Afiyah. And we even pray. This is the mercy that we were taught by our teacher. Difficult thing. We even pray for their guidance. Like despite what they've done against the other guides them, inshallah. Yeah, we ask for guidance and mercy for everybody. Even when we don't want to. Even it's difficult to, we still do. Yeah, inshallah, we should be embodiments of mercy and love for all, regardless, because the doors to Tawbah are always open. And we aren't the ones who are going to close and make people despair. That's not our role. Our role is the opposite, to give people hope and optimism in every situation, inshallah. Inshallah, we stop there. Inshallah, jazakumullah khair wa sallallahu ta'ala ala sayyidina wa habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Okay, so there's a couple of questions here. What time can we begin to read the Tahajjud from the last third of the night? Depends on what timetable you follow. I mean, the easiest way to calculate it is if you look at your local masjid timetable and you look at when Maghrib comes in. So you write that down. Then you look at when Fajr comes in, when you have to close your fast. Yeah. So then, take those two away, however many hours you've got left there, then you divide that by 3. Yeah. So I'll give you a simple example. Let's just say Maghrib came in at 6 o'clock. Yeah. And then you close your fast at 6 o'clock, as an example. That's 12 hours. So then it becomes like 2 o'clock, just like that last third, like that. So just that bit of basic mathematics, inshallah, that then allows you to establish when that is. Obviously, the Ramadan now, so we're awake every night anyway. We shouldn't be sleeping in Ramadan. Really shouldn't be sleeping. This to sleep in the nights of Ramadan is, subhanAllah. Like, it's not a wajib. I mean, come on, it's a wajib for the lovers. How can you be asleep whilst Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling out to you and asking you to move closer to Him? They mentioned once a story about when people with some of the people are arriving in Tareem. In Tareem, they don't sleep in the nights of Ramadan at all. It's like Eid. So there was a group of Westerners that come, they were really struggling. And people would say, no, he's staying awake. So they said, Habib Ali al-Jifri came in from outside. He's like, he was traveling, so he came through. So they said, let's go and ask him. He might have a bit of sympathy with this. Yeah, Shaykh, they're forcing us to stay up every night. We're really struggling here. And he looked at her and he said, how can you want to sleep in Ramadan? Like, you couldn't even understand the question. Well, you want to sleep in Ramadan? You want to sleep during the nights of Ramadan? Are you feeling okay? Like, what's wrong? Work or no work? Don't worry about work. Inshallah, Allah will give you the energy to do your work. The next one, okay, so he's saying something about, yeah, I mean, this is a very good point. He says it would be a good idea if you could plan a trip abroad and to give us a direct chance to meet some of these scholars to gain knowledge. That's very important. Yeah, to have that suhbah with them, and also to have the sanad and to take from them. Is when inshallah is something that we are planning to do. Inshallah, we've already been in talks with some of the Habib Muhammad Idris, particularly, who's happy to host like a rihla, like a group of people coming for a journey, and he can give them time. And we also have access to Fez, Morocco, a number of people, and other places as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He chooses to open up, inshallah. That's a very good point. I read a lot of these things, you need to be in those environments to even understand like some of the points that are being made, inshallah. Inshallah. Tomorrow there won't be a lesson. Inshallah, I'm going to be traveling tomorrow. So we'll have Friday off, which is good, mashallah. It's Friday, Yom al-Jumu'ah, inshallah. So please remember me in your prayers tomorrow, especially at that time between Asr and Maghrib, inshallah, and then we'll resume again on Saturday. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala sayyidina wa habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.